can embarrass me in my own house?
The smell of burning flesh filled the kitchen. Mama Grace's scream tore through the mansion as the hot clothing iron pressed against her wrinkled skin. Her hand, the same hand that had once pulled her drowning son from a lake, now trembled in agony. "You think you can embarrass me in my own house?" Vanessa hissed, pressing harder. Outside, thunder rumbled. Inside, an old woman's world shattered. But what Vanessa didn't know was that Marcus had just pulled into the driveway, 30 minutes early. And the security cameras had recorded everything. This is the story of how one woman's cruelty destroyed her perfect life, and how a mother's sacrifice finally brought the truth into the light. If you want to enjoy this story, watch the full video finish so that you will not miss next one. Don't forget to comment and share it to 1,000 people and tell me where you watch from and me know what you gain about this story. Did Mama Grace make a mistake trusting Vanessa? What would you do in her situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. If you're loving this story, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss what happens next. Trust me, you won't believe how this unfolds. Where are you watching from? Comment your city, Atlanta, New York, London, Toronto, or anywhere in the world. Let me see how far our family reaches. 25 years ago in rural Mississippi, Mama Grace was known as the strongest woman in Clarksville. Not because of her body. Her right leg had been damaged in a car accident when she was 19, but because of her spirit. Every morning before dawn, she'd wake in their tiny trailer, the one with gaps in the walls where winter wind whistled through. She'd hobble to the kitchen, her twisted leg dragging slightly, and pack lunches for her son Marcus. Peanut butter sandwiches, an apple if they could afford it, and always a handwritten note, "You're going to do great things." Marcus was 8 years old when the accident at Miller's Lake nearly took his life. He'd been showing off, trying to reach a baseball that had rolled onto the old dock. The rotten wood gave way. He plunged into the murky water, his small arms flailing as the current pulled him under. Mama Grace didn't hesitate. She didn't think about her bad leg or the fact that she could barely swim. She jumped. The water was freezing, thick with mud. She felt her damaged leg screaming as she kicked, felt her lungs burning, but her hands found his shirt. She pulled him up, pushed him toward the surface, and took the impact when her back slammed into a submerged log. On the muddy bank, as Marcus coughed up water, she held him close. "Are you okay, Mama?" he'd whispered, seeing blood on her shin where the log had struck. "As long as you're breathing," she'd said, her voice shaking. "I can handle any pain." Those words would echo through the years. Marcus excelled in school. While other kids played video games, he taught himself coding on the library's old computers. Mama Grace worked 3 jobs, cleaning offices at night, doing laundry for wealthy families, selling homemade pies at the farmer's market, so he could attend a computer camp one summer. When he got a full scholarship to Georgia Tech, she cried for an hour, clutching the acceptance letter like it was made of gold. "You did it, baby," she'd whispered. "You're going to leave this trailer park behind." "We're going to leave it behind, Mama," he'd corrected her. And he kept his promise. By 30, Marcus had built a cybersecurity company that Fortune 500 companies paid millions to protect them. By 35, his face was on the cover of Forbes. The trailer in Mississippi became a memory, replaced by a 6-bedroom mansion in Atlanta's most exclusive neighborhood. Mama Grace should have been living her dream. Instead, she was about to enter her worst nightmare. When Marcus brought Vanessa home, everything seemed perfect. Vanessa was polished, elegant, a corporate lawyer with degrees from Yale. She shook Mama Grace's hand gently and said all the right things. "Mrs. Cole, Marcus talks about you constantly. You raised an incredible man." Mama Grace smiled, but something in Vanessa's eyes, something cold and calculating, made her uneasy. She dismissed it. Every mother worries when her son gets married, she told herself. The wedding was lavish. 300 guests, a designer dress, champagne that cost more than Mama Grace used to make in a month. Marcus looked happier than she'd ever seen him. "Take care of my boy," Mama Grace had whispered to Vanessa during the reception. Vanessa's smile was dazzling. Of course. And you'll live with us. You're family now. But the moment Marcus left for a business trip to San Francisco, that smile vanished like smoke. Vanessa stood in the doorway of Mama Grace's room on the mansion's first floor, the room Marcus had specially designed with grab bars and non-slip floors. Let's get something straight, Vanessa said quietly. This is my house now. You're here because Marcus feels guilty about where you came from. But don't mistake his guilt for power. You have none. Mama Grace's heart sank. I just want to help. Help? Vanessa laughed coldly. You can barely walk. The only help you'll be is staying out of sight when we have important guests. I won't have people thinking Marcus's mother is some crippled charity case. The word, crippled, hit like a slap. That night, Mama Grace lay in her comfortable bed in her beautiful room and cried silently. The mansion suddenly felt more like a prison than the tiny trailer ever had. The bruises started small. A purple mark on Mama Grace's forearm. A greenish shadow on her shin. Each time Marcus noticed, Vanessa had an explanation ready, delivered with perfect concern. She insisted on carrying the laundry basket downstairs. I told her to wait for Rosa, our housekeeper, but you know how stubborn she is. Vanessa would place a caring hand on Marcus's shoulder. I worry about her constantly. Marcus would turn to his mother with gentle exasperation. Mama, please. Let Rosa help you. That's why we hired her. Mama Grace would open her mouth to protest, to say that Vanessa had sent Rosa home early, that Vanessa had demanded she scrub the floors herself, but then she'd see the trust shining in her son's eyes. The absolute faith he had in his wife. And she couldn't bear to shatter it. I'm just being stubborn, she'd say softly, the lie tasting like ash. I'll be more careful. What Marcus didn't see were the moments when Vanessa's mask fell away completely. Like the afternoon when Mama Grace accidentally knocked over a vase while dusting. Something Vanessa had insisted she do, even though they paid someone for that. The crystal shattered across the marble, 1,000 glittering pieces. Vanessa appeared instantly, her heels clicking sharply. She didn't speak at first. She just stared at the shattered vase, then at Mama Grace's trembling hands, then back at the vase. That was from Milan, Vanessa said quietly. Dangerously. It cost $12,000. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean. Of course you didn't mean to. Vanessa's voice was silk wrapped around steel. You don't mean to do a lot of things. You don't mean to embarrass us. You don't mean to remind everyone that Marcus came from nothing. You don't mean to exist here like some ghost from his shameful past. Each word was a calculated blow. But you do exist. And every time someone visits, every time they see you limping around with that pathetic leg, they remember that my husband, a man worth $200 million, has white trash for a mother. Mama Grace felt tears burning, but she refused to let them fall. Not in front of this woman. Clean this up, Vanessa commanded. With your hands. I want you to pick up every single piece. Maybe the pain will teach you to be more careful. She walked away, leaving Mama Grace on her knees, carefully picking up razor-sharp crystal shards. By the time she finished, her fingers were bleeding in 6 places. That evening, Marcus came home to find his wife curled up on the sofa, eyes red as if she'd been crying. Baby, what's wrong? He rushed to her side. I feel terrible, Vanessa whispered. Your mother broke one of our wedding vases today, and I snapped at her. I didn't mean to, but I've been so stressed with the Henderson case, and I took it out on her. I'm a horrible daughter-in-law. Marcus pulled her close. You're not horrible. You're human. I'm sure Mama understands. She does. She's so forgiving. Too forgiving. Vanessa buried her face in his shoulder. I don't deserve her grace. The manipulation was flawless. When Marcus checked on his mother later, her hands were bandaged. Just some small cuts, she explained. I was careless. Vanessa told me what happened. She feels awful. Mama Grace looked at her son. How could she explain that his wife's tears were theater? That the woman he loved was slowly torturing her? She couldn't. Not without proof. Not without destroying his happiness. She doesn't need to feel bad, Mama Grace said quietly. I should be more careful. The pattern continued for months. Vanessa would demand impossible tasks, scrubbing all the bathrooms in the mansion, cooking elaborate 7-course meals, organizing the 3-car garage in the Atlanta heat. When Mama Grace's damaged leg couldn't keep up, Vanessa's cruelty would escalate. Lazy, she'd hiss. You lived off welfare for years. Now you're living off my husband's success, and you can't even earn your keep. She'd accidentally hide Mama Grace's walking cane, forcing her to crawl to the bathroom in the middle of the night. She'd serve dinner to Marcus and herself, leaving nothing for Mama Grace except whatever scraps remained. We're having guests Saturday, Vanessa announced one morning. Important clients. You'll stay in your room. I don't want anyone seeing you. But Marcus wanted me to meet. I don't care what Marcus wanted. Vanessa stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. You're an embarrassment. A reminder of everything he's tried to rise above. The only reason you're here is because he pities you. But his pity has limits, and you'd better pray you never reach them. Mama Grace spent that Saturday evening alone in her room, listening to laughter and music filtering through the walls. She heard Marcus telling a story about his childhood, heard the guests' sympathetic sounds. His mother sacrificed everything for him, she heard Vanessa say warmly. She's resting now. The doctor says she needs quiet. More lies. Always more lies. That night, Mama Grace stood at her window, looking out at the manicured gardens, the pool with its underwater lights, the guest house Marcus had mentioned converting into an art studio for her someday. She was living in a paradise that felt like hell. And the worst was yet to come. Mama Grace's walking cane was more than just wood and rubber. It was her independence. Her dignity. Her ability to move through the world without crawling. It was custom-made, fitted to her exact height, with a padded grip that didn't hurt her arthritic hands. Marcus had ordered it from a medical supply company in Sweden, sparing no expense. On Tuesday morning, it vanished. Mama Grace woke at dawn as usual, her damaged leg already aching from the storm system moving through Atlanta. She reached for the cane she always kept beside her nightstand. Nothing. She felt around more urgently. Still nothing. Panic fluttered in her chest. She pushed herself up, pain shooting through her hip, and checked the bathroom, the closet, under the bed. The cane was nowhere. She managed to pull herself upright using the dresser, then the wall, each movement agony. By the time she reached the kitchen, a journey that should have taken 2 minutes but took 15, sweat poured down her face. Vanessa sat at the island counter, perfectly dressed in a cream business suit, sipping coffee and scrolling through her phone. She didn't look up. Vanessa, have you seen my cane? Mama Grace's voice was breathless from pain. Your cane. Vanessa glanced up with false innocence. No. Why would I know where your cane is? It was beside my bed last night. It's always beside my bed. Maybe you moved it and forgot. You're getting older. Memory issues are common. Vanessa returned to her phone, dismissing the conversation. I didn't move it. I need it. I can barely walk without. Then maybe you should stay in your room until you find it. Vanessa's tone was ice. We're having contractors here today to discuss the kitchen renovation. I don't need you hobbling around, making them uncomfortable. Mama Grace gripped the counter, her leg trembling. Please. Just help me look for it. Vanessa set down her phone with deliberate slowness. She stood, walked around the island, and stopped inches from Mama Grace. Listen carefully, she said, her voice soft but venomous. You don't need a cane to sit in your room. You don't need a cane to stay out of my way. And you certainly don't need a cane to remember your place in this house. Understanding dawned like cold water. You took it. Prove it. Vanessa smiled. Go ahead. Hobble to Marcus's office and tell him his wife stole your precious cane. See if he believes you over me." She walked away, heels clicking against marble, leaving Mama Grace trembling against the counter. The day became a nightmare. Mama Grace tried to navigate the mansion using walls and furniture for support. Every step was fire. Her damaged leg, which had never fully healed from that car accident 40 years ago, screamed in protest. She made it to the bathroom twice, taking 20 minutes each time for a journey that should have lasted 30 seconds. By afternoon, she was exhausted, hungry, and desperate. That's when she fell. She'd been trying to reach the kitchen for water, using the hallway wall for balance. Her bad leg gave out. She went down hard, her hip slamming into the hardwood floor with a sickening crack. Pain exploded through her body. She tried to push herself up, but her arms were too weak, her leg useless. She lay there, tears streaming, whispering prayers. "Help," she called out, but her voice was barely a whisper. "Please. Someone help." Rosa, the housekeeper, found her 30 minutes later. The young woman's eyes filled with horror. "Senora Grace. What happened? Where is your cane?" I fell. Can you help me up?" Rosa helped her to a sitting position, supporting her weight. "You should not be walking without your cane. This is dangerous. I can't find it. It's missing." Something flickered across Rosa's face, recognition, perhaps even knowledge, but she said nothing. She helped Mama Grace back to her room, settled her into bed, and brought water and pain medication. "Rosa," Mama Grace gripped her hand. "Have you seen my cane?" The housekeeper looked away, uncomfortable. I clean only where Mrs. Vanessa tells me. I do not go in certain places." "What places?" "I'm sorry, Senora. I need this job. I have 3 children." Rosa's eyes pleaded for understanding. "I cannot." "It's okay." Mama Grace released her hand, understanding immediately. Rosa knew something but was too afraid to speak. After Rosa left, Mama Grace lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The physical pain was terrible, but worse was the psychological torture of it all. Vanessa had taken the one thing that allowed her basic mobility, and there was nothing she could do about it. That evening, Marcus came home and visited her room. "Mama, Rosa told me you fell today. Are you okay?" His face was creased with worry. "I'm fine, baby. Just clumsy. Where's your cane? You should be using it." I misplaced it." Marcus frowned. "That doesn't sound like you." "Vanessa," he called out. "Have you seen Mama's cane?" Vanessa appeared in the doorway, concern painted perfectly on her face. "Oh no, is that why you fell? Grace, why didn't you tell me you lost it? I would have helped you look." The performance was flawless. "We'll get you a new one tomorrow," Marcus decided. "I'll have one delivered by morning." "That's sweet, darling," Vanessa purred. "But maybe Grace should learn to ask for help instead of being so prideful. The fall might have been a blessing, a wake-up call that she needs to slow down." Marcus nodded, buying every word. "Mama, please. Let us take care of you." After they left, Mama Grace heard Vanessa's laughter echo down the hallway, distant and cruel. The next morning, a new cane arrived. It was identical to the old one. Mama Grace picked it up with trembling hands, grateful but knowing the relief was temporary. Because 3 days later, that cane disappeared too. Then the replacement after that. And Vanessa's smile grew wider each time. Marcus had been planning the dinner party for weeks. The Hendersons were potential investors, old money from Boston, the kind of people who could take his company global. Everything had to be perfect. 8 courses, Vanessa announced, standing in the kitchen doorway. "French cuisine. We're serving at 7. Mama Grace looked up from the small meal she was preparing for herself, canned soup and crackers. "Rosa usually handles dinner parties. I gave Rosa the week off." Vanessa's smile was sharp. "You'll cook." "Vanessa, I can't cook French food." I don't know. You cooked for Marcus his whole childhood, didn't you? Surely you can manage one meal. Vanessa placed a stack of cooking magazines on the counter. Coco vin, ratatouille, bouillabaisse, duck confit, chocolate soufflé. The recipes are all here. Mama Grace felt panic rising. These dishes take hours. Some of them I've never even heard of. Then you'd better start learning. Vanessa checked her watch. It's 10 a.m. now. You have 9 hours. I suggest you don't waste time arguing. She left, her perfume lingering like poison in the air. Mama Grace stared at the recipes, her hands shaking. The instructions were full of French terms she didn't understand. Brunoise, mirepoix, beurre blanc. Even reading them made her head spin. But she had no choice. She began with the bouillabaisse, a fish stew that required filleting whole fish. Her arthritic fingers struggled with the knife. Twice she nearly cut herself. The kitchen heated up as she worked, sweat soaking through her dress. By 2 p.m., she'd only finished 2 dishes, and both looked nothing like the magazine photos. The ratatouille was too watery. The coco vin had burned slightly on the bottom. Her leg screamed in pain from standing so long. She tried to sit periodically, but every time she did, she'd remember Vanessa's deadline and force herself back up. At 4, Vanessa swept through to inspect. She lifted a spoon, tasted the bouillabaisse, and spat it into the sink. This is garbage. I'm still learning, I just need more time. You don't have more time. Guests arrive at 7. Vanessa's eyes glittered dangerously. If you embarrass me tonight, you'll regret it. By 6:30, Mama Grace had somehow completed all 8 courses. They weren't perfect, the soufflé had fallen slightly, the duck was overcooked, but they were done. She'd never been so exhausted in her life. Her leg had gone numb. Her hands cramped from gripping utensils. She could barely stand. Go to your room, Vanessa commanded. Clean yourself up. You look like a homeless person. But I should help serve. Absolutely not. I don't want the Hendersons seeing you like this. Vanessa wrinkled her nose. You smell like fish and sweat. Stay in your room until they leave. Marcus arrived home at 6:45, found his wife in a stunning red dress, and kissed her cheek. Everything looks amazing, he said, surveying the dining room. You've outdone yourself. I wanted tonight to be special. Vanessa's smile was radiant. Come, let's welcome our guests. In her room, Mama Grace sat on her bed, listening to the sounds of the party. Laughter. Clinking glasses. Conversations about stock portfolios and vacation homes in the Hamptons. Then she heard Mrs. Henderson's voice. Vanessa, this coco vin is exquisite. Where did you learn to cook like this? Oh, I picked up a few things living in Paris during law school, Vanessa said smoothly. French cuisine is really about patience and love. The guests cooed with admiration. Mama Grace pressed her hands to her mouth, suppressing a sob. She'd cooked for 7 hours straight, endured unimaginable pain, and now Vanessa was taking credit for everything. Around 9, she heard Marcus's voice rise slightly. Where's my mother? The Hendersons wanted to meet her. She wasn't feeling well, Vanessa said with practiced concern. Her arthritis has been flaring up. I insisted she rest. You know how she pushes herself. Maybe I should check on her. Darling, let her sleep. We can tell her all about tonight tomorrow. The conversation moved on. At 11, after the guests left, Marcus knocked softly on Mama Grace's door. She pretended to be asleep. He kissed her forehead and whispered, Thanks for being here, Mama. We couldn't have done this without you. If only he knew how true that was. The next morning, Mama Grace woke to find her door locked from the outside. She tried the handle several times, confusion turning to fear. She knocked. Hello. The door is stuck. Vanessa's voice came from the hallway, casual and cold. It's not stuck. I locked it. Why? Let me out. You embarrassed me last night. I stayed in my room like you told me. Exactly. The Hendersons kept asking to meet Marcus's famous mother, the woman who sacrificed so much. I had to keep making excuses. Your absence made me look bad. Vanessa's shadow moved under the door crack. You'll stay there today. Think about how your selfishness affects this family. Vanessa, please. I need my medication. I need the bathroom. There's a bathroom in your suite. As for medication, you should have thought about that before hiding last night. You ordered me to stay in my room. Did I? I don't recall that. The shadow moved away. Enjoy your day, Grace. Mama Grace spent 14 hours locked in that room. She had access to a bathroom, yes, but no food, no medication for her pain, no way to call for help. Her phone had mysteriously disappeared from her nightstand. When Marcus came home, Vanessa unlocked the door as if nothing had happened. How was your day, Mama? He asked cheerfully during dinner. Mama Grace looked at Vanessa, who smiled sweetly back. Quiet, Mama Grace whispered. Very quiet. Mama Grace had always believed that truth had its own power, that justice would eventually surface like oil on water. But she was learning a darker lesson. Truth means nothing if no one listens. The isolation grew more systematic. Vanessa began intercepting her phone calls. Mama Grace's old friends from Mississippi, the women she'd sold pies with at farmers' markets, the church sisters who'd prayed her through hard times, gradually stopped calling. I don't understand, her friend Betty said during one of the few calls that got through. I've called 10 times. Vanessa keeps saying you're sleeping or at the doctor. I'm right here, Betty. I'm always here. She said you're getting forgetful. That you don't remember people anymore. The words hit like a physical blow. Vanessa was planting seeds, preparing a narrative. Crazy old woman losing her mind. Betty, I'm not forgetful. I'm being. Vanessa appeared in the doorway, smiling. Who's that, Grace? Her voice was honey-sweet, with an undercurrent of threat. It's Betty. Vanessa crossed the room and gently took the phone. Betty. Hi, this is Vanessa. I'm so sorry, but Grace is having one of her confused days. The doctor says we shouldn't let her get overstimulated. I'll have her call you back when she's more lucid, okay? I'm right here. Mama Grace protested. I'm not confused. Vanessa covered the phone's microphone. If you make a scene, I'll tell Marcus you attacked me. Who do you think he'll believe? The threat hung in the air, poisonous and real. After that, the phone calls stopped entirely. Vanessa claimed the doctor recommended limiting social contact to reduce Mama Grace's anxiety and confusion. Marcus, buried in work, accepted the explanation without question. Then came the medication switch. Mama Grace took 3 prescriptions, one for her arthritis pain, one for high blood pressure, and one for her heart. She'd taken them religiously for 15 years. One morning, she noticed the pills looked different. Vanessa, these aren't my usual medications. The pharmacy switched to generic brands. They're the same thing, just cheaper. Vanessa set the pills on the counter. Take them. But my doctor didn't mention. Are you a doctor now? Just take the damn pills. Mama Grace swallowed them, uncertainty gnawing at her. Within a week, her symptoms changed. She felt drowsy all the time, dizzy, disconnected. Her thoughts moved through fog. Simple tasks, reading, following TV shows, became difficult. Mama, are you feeling okay? Marcus asked one evening. You seem out of it. She tried to focus on his face, but exhaustion pulled at her. I'm tired. Vanessa's been telling me you're sleeping 16 hours a day. Maybe we should adjust your medications. Maybe, she mumbled, unable to form a complete argument through the haze. What she didn't know was that Vanessa had indeed switched her medications, but not to generic versions. She'd replaced the prescriptions with mild sedatives, enough to keep Mama Grace perpetually drowsy and confused, but not enough to cause obvious harm. The perfect crime. One afternoon, desperate for clarity, Mama Grace waited until Vanessa left for work. She used the wall for support and made her way to Marcus's home office. She'd write him a letter. Put everything in writing. He'd have to believe her then. Her hands shook as she pulled out paper from his desk. She began to write. Dear Marcus, I need to tell you the truth about what's been happening. She'd written 3 paragraphs when she heard the front door open. Vanessa had come back. Panic flooded her system. She tried to fold the letter, hide it, but her drug-fogged brain moved too slowly. Vanessa appeared in the doorway. What are you doing in here? I was just... Mama Grace clutched the letter. Vanessa crossed the room in 3 strides and snatched the paper. Her eyes scanned it quickly, her expression darkening with each line. You were going to lie to my husband. It's not lies. It's the truth. You've been hurting me, drugging me. Vanessa laughed, a sound like breaking glass. She held the letter over the desk's paper shredder and pressed the button. The machine whirred to life, pulling the paper through its teeth, destroying Mama Grace's words into confetti. Go ahead, Vanessa said quietly. Tell Marcus. Use your words. Oh wait, you can barely form complete sentences anymore, can you? Those medications really do make you seem senile. Mama Grace felt tears streaming. Why are you doing this? Because I can. Vanessa leaned close. Because Marcus loves me more than he'll ever love you. Because you're a reminder of everything he's risen above. Poverty, struggle, weakness. You're the past. I'm his future. He's my son. He's my husband. And in his world, I matter more. That night, Marcus found his mother crying in her room. Mama, what's wrong? She looked at him, her boy, her baby, the child she'd nearly died saving. How could she make him see? How could she break through his blind faith? I miss Mississippi, she said instead. A truth, if not the truth. We can visit any time you want, he promised, kissing her forehead. You just say the word. But they both knew they never would. Vanessa had won this round, and the next, and the next. She'd systematically stripped away Mama Grace's voice, her credibility, her connections to the outside world. All that remained was her body, her physical presence that Vanessa couldn't erase. Not yet. But the iron heating up in the kitchen suggested that even that was about to change. Storm clouds gathered over Atlanta on Thursday afternoon, turning the sky the color of old bruises. Inside the mansion, tension crackled like static electricity. Vanessa had guests arriving for drinks at 6, partners from her law firm, people she wanted to impress. She'd spent the morning arranging flowers, plumping cushions, making everything perfect. Everything except one problem. Mama Grace. I need you to cook appetizers, Vanessa announced at 2 p.m., stuffed mushrooms, bruschetta, bacon-wrapped dates, and those little filo cups with spinach. Mama Grace sat at the kitchen table, her bad leg propped on a chair. The sedatives Vanessa had been giving her made everything feel underwater. I don't think I can today. My leg is very painful. I don't recall asking if you could. I said you will. Vanessa, please. You know what your problem is. Vanessa's voice dropped to something venomous. You've never understood gratitude. My husband pulled you out of a trailer park and gave you a mansion, and you can't even cook a few appetizers. I've cooked every meal in this house for 6 months. And you've eaten every meal too. Rent-free. That's called being a parasite. The word struck like a slap. Parasite. That's how Vanessa saw her, not as Marcus's mother, not as a human being who'd sacrificed everything, but as something feeding off their success. Mama Grace stood slowly, painfully, and began cooking. Her hands trembled as she chopped vegetables. The medication made her coordination poor. She nearly cut herself twice. The kitchen grew hot, sweat beading on her forehead as she worked the stove. By 4:30, she'd completed 3 of the 4 dishes. But exhaustion overwhelmed her. Her leg gave out, and she grabbed the counter to steady herself. In doing so, her elbow knocked a pot of soup. The pot tipped, splashing hot liquid across the pristine marble floor. No, 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 Mama Grace whispered, panic flooding through her fogged mind. She heard heels clicking rapidly toward the kitchen. Vanessa appeared, her face transforming from perfect composure to cold rage in seconds. What did you do? I'm sorry, I'll clean it up right now. You spilled on my floor. My clean floor. 2 hours before my guests arrive. Vanessa's voice was eerily calm, which somehow made it more terrifying. Mama Grace grabbed a towel and tried to kneel, but her bad leg wouldn't cooperate. She bent awkwardly, pain shooting through her hip. You're useless, Vanessa hissed. Completely useless. You can't walk right, can't cook right, can't do anything right. You're just a crippled old woman who should have stayed in Mississippi where you belong. Something inside Mama Grace finally broke. Not her spirit, but her silence. I am Marcus's mother, she said, voice shaking but firm. I raised him. I sacrificed for him. This may be your house, but I have every right to be here. The silence that followed was deafening. Vanessa's face went perfectly still. Then she smiled, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. You finally grew a spine. How interesting. She walked to the counter and unplugged something from the wall. You know what? I think it's time you learned a permanent lesson about respect. She pulled out the clothing iron, the professional grade one she used for Marcus's expensive shirts. She set it on the counter and turned the dial to maximum heat. The red light blinked on. Mama Grace's blood turned to ice. Vanessa, what are you doing? Teaching you your place. Vanessa's voice was flat, emotionless. You've been testing me for months. The complaints, the looks, the little rebellions. Today, you finally spoke back to me. That was your mistake. Please, I'm sorry, I didn't mean. Too late. The iron heated quickly, waves of heat shimmering above it like a mirage. Vanessa picked it up, testing its weight. Mama Grace tried to back away, but her leg failed her. She stumbled, catching herself against the refrigerator. You think you matter in this house? Vanessa advanced slowly, deliberately. You think Marcus cares about you more than me? Let me show you exactly how much power you have. She grabbed Mama Grace's wrist with surprising strength. No, please. Vanessa, I'm begging you. Beg all you want. No one can hear you. No one's coming to save you. Mama Grace struggled, but the medications, her damaged leg, her age, everything worked against her. Vanessa forced her arm down onto the kitchen counter. This is my house, Vanessa said, her face inches away. My husband. My life. You're just a ghost from his past that I'm finally erasing. She pressed the glowing iron against Mama Grace's wrist. The pain was beyond description, beyond thought, beyond anything human should endure. The scream that tore from Mama Grace's throat was primal, animal, a sound of pure agony that seemed to shake the walls. The smell of burning flesh filled the kitchen. Acrid, sickening, unforgettable. Vanessa held it there for 5 seconds. 5 seconds that felt like eternity. When she finally lifted the iron, Mama Grace's wrist was a horror of blistered, blackened skin. The old woman collapsed to the floor, cradling her ruined arm, sobbing uncontrollably. Look at that, Vanessa said calmly, examining the iron. You got skin on my iron. You'll need to clean that later. She set it back on the counter, unplugged it, and walked to the sink to wash her hands as if she'd just finished a mundane chore. Mama Grace lay curled on the cold marble, her body convulsing with shock and pain. Tears streamed down her face. She couldn't speak, couldn't think, could only exist in the overwhelming agony. I have guests arriving in an hour, Vanessa said, drying her hands on a towel. Stay in your room. If you come out, if you make a sound, I'll tell Marcus you attacked me and burned yourself in the struggle. We both know he'll believe me. She stepped over Mama Grace's trembling body and left the kitchen. Outside, thunder rumbled. The storm was getting closer. But inside, the real storm was about to break. Because at that exact moment, Marcus's SUV was pulling into the driveway, 30 minutes earlier than expected. His business dinner had been cancelled. He'd decided to surprise his wife. And the security camera in the kitchen, the one he'd installed last month after a break-in scare in the neighborhood, had recorded everything. Every word. Every action. Every second of torture. Marcus Cole didn't know it yet, but his entire world was about to shatter into pieces that could never be put back together. Marcus Cole pulled his black Mercedes into the garage, exhausted but happy to be home early. The Henderson deal had closed faster than expected. Signed contracts, champagne, handshakes all around. He'd texted Vanessa an hour ago, coming home early. Can't wait to see you. She hadn't responded, which was unusual, but he figured she was busy preparing for her law firm gathering. He entered through the garage door into the mudroom, loosening his tie. The house was quiet except for the soft hum of the air conditioning. Then he heard it. A sound that turned his blood to ice. A scream. Raw, agonized, barely human, cutting through the air like a knife through flesh. His mother's voice. Mama. He dropped his briefcase and ran toward the kitchen, his heart hammering against his ribs. He burst through the doorway and stopped dead. Mama Grace lay crumpled on the marble floor, her body curled into itself, trembling violently. Her right arm was clutched against her chest, and even from 10 feet away, he could see the angry, blistered burn covering her wrist. The smell hit him next. Charred flesh, unmistakable and horrifying. Mama! He was on his knees beside her in seconds, his hands hovering, afraid to touch her and cause more pain. What happened? Who did this? Her eyes opened, clouded with agony, with tears, with something that looked like terror. Marcus, she whispered. You're home. I'm here, Mama. I'm right here. His voice cracked. What happened? Did you burn yourself cooking? He looked around frantically. A pot of soup had spilled on the floor. The iron sat on the counter, unplugged but still warm. The pieces didn't fit together. Then he saw movement in the doorway. Vanessa stood there, frozen, her face pale. For just a moment, maybe half a second, he saw something in her expression he'd never seen before. Guilt. Fear. Calculation. Then it vanished, replaced by concern. Oh my God, Marcus. Thank God you're home. She rushed forward. I found her like this. I think she tried to cook and the iron fell. The iron fell? Marcus looked at the counter, then at his mother's wrist, then back at Vanessa. Something wasn't right. The burn was too precise, too deliberate. Not the pattern of an accident. Baby, we need to call an ambulance. Vanessa reached for him. Don't touch me. His voice was quiet, deadly. Step back. What? Marcus, I'm trying to help. I said step back. Vanessa froze, confusion and fear warring on her face. Marcus's mind was racing. 6 months of small inconsistencies suddenly crashed together like puzzle pieces. The bruises his mother always explained away. Her increasing drowsiness and confusion. The way she flinched whenever Vanessa entered a room. Her friends stopping their calls. The missing canes. And most damning, the look in Vanessa's eyes right now. Not shock. Not horror. But fear of being caught. What really happened? He turned to his mother, his voice gentle despite the fury building inside him. Mama, please. Tell me the truth. Mama Grace's lips trembled. She looked at Vanessa, then back at Marcus. I fell. I was clumsy. Stop protecting her. Marcus's voice cracked like a whip. Stop protecting everyone but yourself. What happened? Tears streamed down her face. She was angry about the soup. She said I needed to learn respect. She took the iron and... Her voice broke into sobs. The words hit Marcus like bullets. Each one finding its mark, tearing through the illusion of his perfect marriage, his perfect life. He stood slowly, his entire body rigid with barely contained rage. He turned to Vanessa. "You burned my mother." "No." "She's confused, Marcus. Those medications make her." "What medications?" Vanessa faltered. "Her prescriptions. You know she takes." "I handle her prescriptions. Through the pharmacy app. I get notifications every time they're filled." His voice dropped to something dangerous. "What medications did you give her?" Silence. Marcus pulled out his phone, his hands shaking with fury. "I'm calling the police." "Marcus, wait. Let me explain." Vanessa's polished facade cracked completely. "She was being disrespectful. She talked back to me. I just wanted to." "You wanted to what? Torture my mother? The woman who raised me. The woman who saved my life. I'm your wife. You're nothing." The words came out cold, final. "You're nothing to me anymore." He dialed 911, his eyes never leaving Vanessa's face. But even as he spoke to the operator, even as Vanessa began to cry and plead, even as his mother sobbed on the floor, Marcus remembered something. The security cameras. He'd installed them throughout the house last month, including the kitchen. "Wait here," he told the 911 operator. "I'm sending you video evidence." He pulled up the security app on his phone, selected the kitchen camera, scrolled back 1 hour. And there it was. Everything. In crystal clear high definition. Vanessa's cruelty. The threats. The deliberate, methodical torture. His mother's screams. The burning. All of it. Marcus played the video in silence, his face draining of color, his jaw clenched so tight it ached. When it finished, he looked up at Vanessa. She stood paralyzed, watching her entire life collapse in real time. "The police are on their way," Marcus said quietly. "And I'm sending them this video. You're going to prison, Vanessa. For a very long time. Marcus, please. I love you. It was a mistake. I can change. You love me." He laughed, a broken, bitter sound. "You tortured my mother. The woman who sacrificed everything so I could have a future. The woman who nearly died saving me from drowning when I was 8. You burned her like she was nothing." He knelt beside his mother again, carefully lifting her into his arms. "I'm so sorry, Mama," he whispered, tears finally falling. "I'm so sorry I didn't see it. I'm so sorry I didn't protect you." "You're here now," she whispered back. "That's what matters." In the distance, sirens wailed. Justice was coming. And Vanessa's perfect life was about to burn as completely as the flesh she'd charred. The blue lights painted the mansion's white walls in alternating flashes, turning the elegant Atlanta estate into a crime scene. 2 police officers entered first, a tall black woman named Officer Jenkins and her partner, a stocky Latino man, Officer Rodriguez. Behind them came 2 paramedics rushing a stretcher. "She's in here," Marcus called from the kitchen, still cradling his mother. "Please, help her." The paramedics moved with practiced efficiency, carefully examining Mama Grace's burn. Their faces remained professional, but Marcus saw their eyes widen at the severity. "This is a 3rd-degree burn," the female paramedic said quietly. "Ma'am, we need to get you to Grady Hospital immediately. This requires specialized treatment." "I'm going with her," Marcus said firmly. "Sir, we need you to stay for questioning," Officer Jenkins said gently but firmly. "We understand this is difficult, but I have video evidence." Marcus's voice was steel. "Everything that happened is recorded." That got their attention. While the paramedics carefully loaded Mama Grace onto the stretcher, Marcus pulled up his security app again. Officer Jenkins and Rodriguez watched the footage in silence. Marcus watched their faces change. Shock. Disgust. Anger. "Where is your wife now?" Jenkins asked, her voice tight. "Upstairs. Probably trying to pack a bag." Marcus's laugh was bitter. She's a lawyer. She knows what's coming. They found Vanessa in the master bedroom, frantically throwing clothes into a suitcase. She jumped when the officers entered. "Mrs. Cole, we need you to come with us," Officer Rodriguez said. "I'm not going anywhere. This is my house. I have rights." "Vanessa Marie Cole," Officer Jenkins interrupted, pulling out handcuffs. "You're under arrest for aggravated battery, elder abuse, and assault with a deadly weapon. You have the right to remain silent." "No. Marcus. Tell them." Vanessa's voice turned shrill. "Tell them it was an accident. Tell them she provoked me." Marcus appeared in the doorway, his face a mask of cold fury. "She provoked you," he repeated slowly. "My 70-year-old mother with a disabled leg provoked you into pressing a hot iron onto her skin for 5 seconds. She disrespected me. In my own home." "My home," Marcus corrected, his voice dropping to something dangerous. "The deed is in my name. You own nothing here. You are nothing here. And by tomorrow morning, every attorney in Georgia will know exactly what you did." Vanessa's face crumpled as the reality hit her. Her legal career over. Her marriage destroyed. Her freedom gone. The handcuffs clicked shut around her wrists. "I loved you," she whispered as they led her away. "No," Marcus said quietly. "You loved what I could give you. There's a difference." He watched them put her in the police car, watched the red taillights disappear down the driveway, and felt nothing. No sadness. No regret. Just a cold, empty space where his marriage used to be. Then he got in his car and drove to Grady Hospital. Mama Grace was in surgery for 2 hours. They had to debride the burned tissue, apply skin grafts, and treat her for shock and dehydration. Marcus sat in the waiting room, his head in his hands, replaying every moment he'd missed. Every time his mother had tried to tell him something and he'd been too distracted. Every bruise he'd accepted Vanessa's explanation for. Every lie he'd believed because it was easier than confronting the truth. "Mr. Cole." A doctor in blue scrubs approached. "Your mother is out of surgery. She's stable, but she'll need to stay here for at least a week. The burn was severe, and at her age, healing will take time." "Can I see her?" "She's sedated, but yes. Room 407. Marcus entered the hospital room quietly. His mother looked so small in the bed, surrounded by machines, her arm wrapped in thick white bandages. And 4 drip fed into her other arm. He sat beside her and took her unbandaged hand gently. "I'm sorry, Mama," he whispered. "I brought a monster into our lives. I was so blind, so stupid. I should have protected you." Her eyes fluttered open, groggy from medication, but aware. "You're here," she whispered. "That's what matters. I'm always going to be here from now on. I promise. No more business trips. No more distractions. Just you and me, like it used to be." A weak smile crossed her face. "Just you and me." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the Atlanta sunset paint the sky orange and gold through the hospital window. Marcus's phone buzzed. His lawyer. "Marcus, I've filed emergency divorce proceedings. I'm also pursuing a restraining order and pressing criminal charges to the fullest extent. With that video evidence, Vanessa's looking at 5 to 10 years minimum." "Good. There's something else. I did some digging. Your mother's medical records show she was prescribed sedatives she doesn't need. Vanessa was drugging her to make her seem senile." Marcus closed his eyes, new waves of rage washing over him. "Add that to the charges." "Already done. Also, several of your mother's friends have come forward saying Vanessa blocked their calls and told them your mother had dementia. We're building a pattern of systematic abuse and isolation." "How long until trial?" 6 months, maybe. But Marcus, with this evidence, she'll likely take a plea deal. No jury would acquit her after seeing that footage. After the call ended, Marcus looked at his mother again. She'd fallen back asleep, her breathing steady and peaceful for the first time in months. He thought about his childhood. About the way she'd worked 3 jobs to feed him. About the day she'd jumped into Miller's Lake without hesitation to save him. About every sacrifice she'd made so he could have opportunities she'd never had. And he'd repaid her by bringing an abuser into her life. "Never again," he whispered. "I swear to you, Mama. Never again." Outside the window, the storm clouds that had threatened all day finally broke. Rain hammered against the glass, washing the city clean. Inside the hospital room, a son kept vigil over his mother, and slowly, painfully, began the process of healing. 1 week later, Mama Grace sat in Marcus's home office, the one room Vanessa had never controlled. The bandages on her wrist had been changed to lighter dressings, though the pain still flared with every movement. Marcus had transformed the mansion in 7 days. Every trace of Vanessa was gone, her clothes donated, her photos removed, her presence erased like she'd never existed. He'd hired a new housekeeper, Maria, a kind grandmother from Colombia who spoke limited English but whose gentle smile needed no translation. Most importantly, he'd stopped giving his mother the pills Vanessa had substituted. Within 3 days, the fog lifted from Mama Grace's mind. She could think clearly again, speak without fumbling for words, move without the dragging exhaustion. "How do you feel today, Mama?" Marcus asked, bringing her tea. "Clear," she said. "For the first time in months, I feel clear." He sat across from her, and for a long moment, they just looked at each other. "Tell me everything," Marcus said quietly. "I need to hear it all. Every moment I missed, every sign I ignored. Please." So Mama Grace told him. She told him about the first bruise, and Vanessa's perfectly crafted lies. About the scrubbing floors on her damaged knees. About the missing canes, all 4 of them, hidden in Vanessa's closet where Marcus later found them. About being locked in her room during the dinner party. About the medications that stole her clarity. She told him about the words, parasite, cripple, white trash, dropped like poison day after day until she'd almost believed them herself. Marcus listened, his jaw clenched, tears sliding down his face. "Why didn't you tell me?" His voice broke. "Why did you protect her?" "Because you loved her. Because I saw how happy she made you, or how happy I thought she made you." Mama Grace reached across with her good hand and touched his face. "Because I'm your mother, and mothers protect their children. Even when they're grown. Even when it costs us everything. But I should have been protecting you. You didn't know what to look for, baby. Abusers like Vanessa, they're skilled. They know how to manipulate, how to isolate, how to make you doubt reality itself." She paused. "But you did protect me. The moment you knew the truth, you didn't hesitate. You chose me. That's what matters." Marcus took her hand carefully, mindful of the bandages. "I'll spend the rest of my life making this right." "You don't have to make anything right. You just have to be here. That's all I've ever wanted." Over the next few weeks, the legal system ground forward. Vanessa's law firm terminated her immediately. The video had leaked despite court orders, and within 48 hours, it had spread across legal circles in Atlanta. No firm would touch her. The Georgia State Bar opened an ethics investigation. A lawyer who commits felony assault loses their license. Vanessa's career was over before the trial even began. Her wealthy family from Boston, the one she'd always bragged about, released a brief statement. "We are horrified by these allegations and fully support law enforcement. Vanessa's actions do not reflect our family's values." Then they cut her off financially. She tried to sell her story to tabloids, but Marcus's legal team got injunctions. She tried to claim she was the victim of an abusive marriage, but the video evidence demolished that narrative. Finally, her public defender advised her to take the plea deal. 8 years in prison, eligible for parole after 5, Marcus's attorney explained over the phone. Plus permanent restraining order, mandatory anger management and psychological counseling. And she has to pay for all of your mother's medical expenses. "Is 8 years enough?" Marcus asked. For what she did? No. But it's guaranteed, and it means your mother doesn't have to testify and relive the trauma. Marcus consulted with Mama Grace. They agreed to the plea. On the day of sentencing, Marcus and Mama Grace sat in the courtroom. Vanessa looked nothing like the polished lawyer who'd once commanded respect. She wore an orange jumpsuit, her hair unwashed, her eyes red and hollow. Judge Patricia Morrison was a black woman in her 60s, with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much human cruelty. "Mrs. Cole," she began, "I've reviewed the evidence in this case. I've watched the video. And I want to be clear, what you did wasn't a moment of anger. It wasn't a mistake. It was calculated, deliberate torture of a vulnerable elder." Vanessa kept her eyes down. "You systematically isolated your victim. You drugged her to make her seem incompetent. You gaslit your husband and made him doubt his own mother. And then you inflicted severe physical harm as punishment for the crime of existing." The judge paused, her voice hardening. "This court sentences you to 8 years in the Georgia State Women's Prison, with eligibility for parole after 5 years served. You will have no contact with the victims. You will undergo mandatory psychological treatment. And you will live with what you've done." The gavel struck. Vanessa was led away in chains. She didn't look back. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Marcus shielded his mother, guiding her to the car. "Mr. Cole, how do you feel about the sentence? What message does this send about elder abuse? Will you divorce your wife?" Marcus stopped and turned to face the cameras. When he spoke, his voice was calm but firm. "Elder abuse is a hidden epidemic. It happens in wealthy homes and poor ones. It happens to people who sacrificed everything for their children. My mother nearly died because I was too blind to see what was happening in my own home." He paused. "To anyone out there suffering in silence, speak up. Keep speaking up until someone listens. And to the family members, pay attention. Really look at your loved ones. Ask hard questions. Don't accept easy answers." He helped his mother into the car and they drove away, leaving the circus behind. That evening, they sat on the back porch of the mansion, watching fireflies dance in the garden. Maria had made chicken soup, not fancy French cuisine, just simple, comforting food. "What happens now?" Mama Grace asked. "Now we heal," Marcus said. "And I'm stepping back from the company. Promoting my VP to CEO. I'm going to work from home, build the life I should have been living all along." "You don't have to do that for me. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for us. For me. Because somewhere along the way, I forgot what actually matters." Mama Grace smiled and rested her head on his shoulder. They sat in comfortable silence as the sun set over Atlanta, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. The burn on her wrist would leave a scar. Some wounds do. But scars are proof of survival. Proof that you endured something terrible and came out the other side. And sometimes, Mama Grace thought, the scars remind us what really matters. Truth, justice, and the people who love you even when the world turns dark. 6 months after Vanessa's sentencing, Marcus and Mama Grace stood in front of a modest brick house in a quiet Atlanta suburb. Not the mansion in the wealthy enclave, but something smaller, warmer, more like a home. "Are you sure about this?" Mama Grace asked. "That mansion cost you millions." "I sold it," Marcus said simply. "Every room reminded me of what I let happen to you. This house is ours, a fresh start." The new house had 3 bedrooms, a garden with magnolia trees, and a porch with a swing. It was about the same size as 3 of their old mansion's rooms combined. It was perfect. Marcus had done more than move houses. He'd restructured his entire life. He'd promoted his VP to CEO of the cybersecurity company and taken a position as creative consultant. Working from home, setting his own hours, actually sleeping at night. The money was less, but still more than enough. More importantly, he was present. He'd hired Dr. Patricia Okonkwo, a a physical therapist who specialized in mobility issues, who came 3 times a week to work with Mama Grace. Her leg would never be perfect, but with proper treatment and exercise, the pain decreased significantly. He'd reconnected with his mother's old friends from Mississippi, Betty and the church ladies who'd called for months before Vanessa blocked them. They visited monthly, and the house filled with laughter and stories and the smell of homemade pies. Most surprisingly, Marcus had started volunteering at the Atlanta Elder Abuse Prevention Center, speaking to families about warning signs, sharing his story, helping others avoid his mistakes. "Your story saves lives," the center's director told him. "Every week, someone comes forward because they heard you speak. They recognize the patterns." It didn't erase his guilt, but it helped. One evening, Marcus found his mother in the garden, tending to the tomato plants she'd insisted on growing. "Mama, you don't have to do yard work. We can hire." "I want to," she interrupted gently. "I spent months being told I was useless, that I couldn't contribute. Let me grow things. Let me feel alive." He sat beside her on the garden bench, watching her work. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "How did you forgive me?" She looked up, surprised. "Forgive you? For what?" "For bringing her into our lives. For not seeing what she was doing. For choosing her over you, even without realizing it." Mama Grace set down her trowel and turned to face him fully. "Marcus, you didn't choose her over me. You were manipulated by someone skilled at manipulation. There's a difference." She took his hand. "And the moment you saw the truth, not when it was convenient, not when you were ready, but the exact moment you knew, you acted. You protected me. You believed me. You didn't make excuses for her or ask me to forgive her or try to save your marriage. You chose justice. But I should have seen it sooner. Maybe. But abuse thrives in the shadows, baby. It relies on good people not seeing, not believing, not wanting to accept that someone they love could be capable of such cruelty." She squeezed his hand. "What matters is what you did when the lights came on." They sat in silence for a moment. "Do you think she'll ever understand what she did?" Marcus asked. "I don't know. I hope so. I hope prison gives her time to look at herself honestly." Mama Grace's voice was thoughtful. "But whether she changes or not isn't our burden to carry. We survived her. That's enough." A year after the sentencing, Marcus received a letter. It was from Vanessa, forwarded through his attorney. The prison return address was stamped in red. He almost threw it away unread. But something made him open it. "Marcus, I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve either. Therapy here is mandatory, and for the first time in my life, I'm actually participating. I've been diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder and severe insecurity issues stemming from childhood trauma. That's not an excuse. Nothing excuses what I did, but it's an explanation. I was so terrified of being invisible, of being less than, that I destroyed anyone I perceived as competition. Your mother's importance to you threatened my control, so I tried to erase her. I took a woman who survived poverty, disability, and single motherhood, a woman who should have been my hero, and I tortured her because I'm broken inside. I'm not writing to ask for anything. I'm writing to say I'm sorry. To her. To you. And to the person I could have been if I'd gotten help before I destroyed lives. I hope your mother has healed. I hope you both have found peace. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to understand the monster I became. Vanessa." Marcus read it twice, then showed it to his mother. "What do you think?" he asked. Mama Grace was quiet for a long time. "I think she's starting to see the truth. That's more than most abusers ever do." She folded the letter. "But seeing the truth and changing are different things. I hope she changes. For her sake, not ours. Do you forgive her?" "I'm working on it. Forgiveness isn't for her. It's for me. So I can let go of the anger and fear." She smiled sadly. "But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. And it doesn't mean giving her another chance to hurt us. She'll never get that chance. I promise you. I know, baby. I know. 2 years after the incident, Mama Grace celebrated her 73rd birthday. The house was full of people. Marcus, Maria the housekeeper who'd become family, Dr. Okonkwo the physical therapist, Betty and the Mississippi church ladies, some of Marcus's colleagues, and neighbors from their new community. There was no fancy catering, no expensive wine, no pretension. Just fried chicken, potato salad, cornbread, and a homemade chocolate cake. As Mama Grace blew out the candles, surrounded by people who genuinely loved her, Marcus watched from the doorway. He thought about the journey they'd taken, from that trailer in Mississippi to a mansion that became a prison, to this modest house that finally felt like home. He thought about the scars they both carried, visible and invisible, and how those scars had taught them what truly mattered. Success wasn't measured in dollars or square footage or magazine covers. It was measured in moments like this, his mother laughing with friends, her eyes bright and clear, no fear in them anymore. It was measured in trust rebuilt, in wounds healing, in justice served. It was measured in coming home, not to a place, but to each other. As the party wound down and guests started leaving, Mama Grace found Marcus on the porch swing. "Thank you for today," she said, settling beside him. "Thank you for every day," he replied. "Thank you for jumping into that lake when I was 8. Thank you for every sacrifice you made. Thank you for surviving Vanessa. Thank you for giving me a chance to make things right." "You know what the best gift you ever gave me was?" she asked. "What?" "Believing me. When I finally found the courage to tell the truth, you believed me immediately. You didn't question, didn't make excuses, didn't ask me to prove it beyond the evidence. You just believed." Her voice grew thick with emotion. So many abuse victims never get that. They spend years being doubted, having to prove and reprove their pain. You gave me the gift of being believed. Marcus pulled her close, careful of her healing wrist. "I'll always believe you, Mama. Always." They rocked gently on the swing as the sun set over their new neighborhood. Children played in yards. Dogs barked. Someone a few houses down was grilling burgers. It was ordinary and beautiful and safe. "You know what I've learned," Mama Grace said quietly. "Suffering teaches us who we really are. Vanessa's cruelty taught me I'm stronger than I thought. Your response taught me that goodness still exists. And this," she gestured to the house, the garden, the life they'd rebuilt, "this teaches me that we can heal." "We're still healing," Marcus said. "Yes. And that's okay. Healing isn't quick. It's not linear. Some days I still wake up afraid. Some days you still carry guilt. But we're doing it together, and that makes all the difference." As the stars began appearing in the darkening sky, they sat in comfortable silence. Mother and son. Survivor and protector. Two people who'd been through hell and come out the other side. Not unchanged. Trauma leaves marks that never fully fade. But unbroken. And sometimes, that's the greatest victory of all. Epilogue. 5 years after Vanessa's sentencing, the story came full circle in an unexpected way. Marcus received a call from the Atlanta Elder Abuse Prevention Center. A young lawyer named Jennifer wanted to speak with him. She'd seen his advocacy work and had a proposal. They met at a coffee shop downtown. Jennifer was nervous, clutching her portfolio. "Mr. Cole, I want to start a non-profit focused on elder abuse prevention. Legal aid, support groups, education programs. I've seen too many cases like your mother's, too many seniors suffering in silence." "That's ambitious," Marcus said. "What do you need from me?" "Funding, primarily. But also your story. Your platform. You've become the face of elder abuse awareness in Georgia. With your support, we could actually make systemic change." Marcus thought about his mother, about the 6 months she'd suffered alone, about all the other mothers and fathers and grandparents currently suffering in silence. "I'm in," he said. "Let's do it." The non-profit launched 6 months later. The Grace Foundation, named for Mama Grace with her permission. It provided free legal representation for elder abuse victims, ran support groups, created educational materials for families, and lobbied for stronger protective legislation. Mama Grace became involved too, speaking at events, sharing her story, becoming a symbol of survival and strength. "If my pain can prevent even one person from suffering like I did," she told an audience at their first fundraiser, "then it wasn't meaningless. Pain can become purpose if we let it." The foundation grew. Within 3 years, they'd helped hundreds of families, passed 2 new state laws strengthening elder abuse penalties, and created a model that other states began adopting. Marcus thought about Vanessa sometimes, still serving her sentence in a Georgia prison. He wondered if she followed the news, if she knew that the woman she'd tried to destroy had become a force for change. He wondered if she understood the irony. Her cruelty had sparked a movement that would protect countless elderly people from abusers just like her. Final scene. 10 years after the iron burned her wrist, Mama Grace stood at a podium in the Georgia state capitol. The governor was about to sign the Elder Protection Act, landmark legislation that mandated reporting, created stronger penalties, and provided resources for victims. Mama Grace had been invited to speak. She looked out at the crowd, lawmakers, advocates, survivors, families. And there, in the front row, her son Marcus, beaming with pride. "My name is Grace Cole," she began, her voice strong and clear. 10 years ago, I was tortured in my own son's home by someone we trusted. I was isolated, drugged, gaslit, and ultimately burned with a hot iron." The room was absolutely silent. "I'm not sharing this for sympathy. I'm sharing it because my story is not unique. Right now, in homes across this state and country, elderly people are being abused. They're being hurt by family members, caregivers, and people they depend on. And most suffer in silence." She paused, looking at the scar on her wrist, faded now, but still visible. "This scar reminds me of the worst day of my life. But it also reminds me that I survived. That truth prevailed. That justice, though slow, eventually came." She raised her voice. "And this legislation we're signing today means that future victims won't have to wait as long as I did. It means they'll have resources, protection, and a society that actually believes them." Applause filled the chamber. The governor signed the bill, using multiple pens so they could be given as keepsakes. He handed the first one to Mama Grace. After the ceremony, as they walked to the car, Marcus put his arm around his mother. "I'm proud of you, Mama. Look at what you've built from that pain." "We built it," she corrected. "You and me. Like we've always done, together." They drove home through Atlanta traffic, talking about dinner plans and the garden, and whether they should adopt the stray cat that kept appearing on their porch. Ordinary conversation. Normal life. The kind of peace that seems simple but is actually a miracle when you've survived hell. That night, before bed, Mama Grace wrote in the journal her therapist had encouraged her to keep. "Today I helped pass a law that will protect people like me. Today I stood in the Capitol and told my truth without fear. Today I looked at my scar and felt not shame, but strength. Vanessa tried to break me. She tried to erase me. Instead, she revealed my power, the power to survive, to speak, to create change. I forgive her, not because she deserves it, but because I deserve peace. And I've finally found it." She closed the journal and looked out her bedroom window at the stars. The same stars that had shone during that terrible storm 10 years ago, the same stars that had witnessed her pain. But now they witnessed her triumph. She turned off the light and went to sleep, safe and loved in the home she'd helped build. And in the morning, she'd wake up and keep building. Keep speaking, keep healing, keep proving that even the worst cruelty cannot destroy a mother's love or a survivor's strength. Because that's what survivors do. They don't just endure the fire. They rise from the ashes and build something beautiful. And that's the end of Mama Grace's journey. From victim to survivor to advocate, this is what healing looks like. Subscribe to this channel for more powerful stories about resilience, justice, and the strength of the human spirit. Comment below. What's the biggest lesson you took from this story? Like this video if it touched your heart. And share it widely, because someone in your life might be suffering in silence right now, and this story could be the thing that helps them find their voice.